Hello, hello. Welcome. All right. Make sure you guys can hear me. Hi, welcome. Glad to see some folks joining us. This is a super important topic. I am Sari Kimball. I'm the creator of Food Business Success. Thanks for joining me on the YouTube channel. While you are here, I would love it if you could subscribe by hitting the red button below. Please like this video. Please comment. You guys are welcome to add your questions into the chat. But today we are talking about shelf life. And ultimately the food safety aspects of it, right? And what are you obligated to do when it comes to shelf life per the FDA, or what are the nice to know haves? And obviously you guys want to keep people safe. So today's topic is all about your shelf life, right? So here we go. This is Unwrapped, and this is where I answer those bite-sized questions, things that I get asked a lot inside Food Business Success, or oftentimes there's kind of a theme that emerges. So this has been a question we've gotten inside some of the group calls on inside Food Business Success. So I thought I'd just take a minute to answer this, give you a little bit more, some more resources and some ideas on how to go ahead with your product when we're talking about shelf life. So shelf life, now clearly this can be very product dependent. If you have a frozen food, that's going to be very different than a shelf stable product, than a refrigerated product, right? And whether it's a refrigerated salsa versus something that is dairy based or something like that. So we're not going to get into the nuances of every single product, but I can give you some high level things to consider. So when you think about shelf life, this is the timeline is time of production to kind of expiration. And you might be surprised to learn that the FDA does not actually have a requirement for you to put a expiration date on there. The only product that is required is infant formula. Now, if you have a meat product, that's different, but that's under USDA. I know we've talked about that here before. So as far as the FDA is concerned, you actually don't need an good buy, sell by, any kind of expiration date. That said, I think consumers, and especially if you're selling into grocery stores, wholesale, they are definitely going to, there's an expectation, right? That there is some kind of indication of when this product, how long this product is good for. And that's not to say that things couldn't be good for 3 years, right? And then some things are going to have much shorter shelf life. So my recommendation is always to use the terminology best buy. So when we talk about kind of customer psychology, when you're thinking about what date to put on there or how to phrase it, use by, sell by, expires on. To me, those are either a little more passive and they're not as positive. It also implies that the product is bad at a certain time. And oftentimes that just isn't true with products. It's a quality issue, right? So best buy saying that like this product is going to be the most delicious product if you consume it within this time period, right? Before this date. So how the heck do you figure out what that date is? Hi, Lisa. How are you? So when you're trying to figure out what the heck is my shelf life on this product, or does it matter? What should it be? What can I do to help extend that? I want you to think about all products sort of at a high level they're going to be changed, right? Many products are changed somehow, whether they're transformed, you're taking raw ingredients and you're transforming them, oftentimes through heat, sometimes through cold, but there's a blending of ingredients, right, that are going to then change the product. Now, I do have some products, like some of the compound butter companies I've worked with, that, it's a cold product. We never are applying heat. So we're going to have some of those natural barriers of like butter has a best by date on there. So how are we going? That's kind of our measurement stick, is that ingredient. So that's kind of one way, is to say, what's the shortest shelf life of the product that's going into this if it's not heated. If it's heated, now we're dealing somewhere else. But for in this case with the butter, right? It's like, well, the butter has a 6-month shelf life. So most likely that's pretty close to mine. But ultimately, your shelf life is going to go down or change. It's a function of your pH. It can be a function of your water activity. It's going to determine your shelf life. Whether you have additives or preservatives, natural and not so natural. Like I mentioned, raw versus cooked or drying, dehydrated. Oxygen, the air, is definitely going to be a factor, right? It's going to dry out. If you have a product that's exposed to air, it's going to dry something out. Temperature, extreme heats or cold are going to change the product shelf life, and then also light. So those are kind of some of the pieces you got to consider. So, when we're packaging cookies, for instance, like the ones behind me, we're letting them cool, so we're not packaging them hot, because that's definitely going to increase the moisture if we add steam into the package. So they need to be cooled down. But then we're going to package them not in an airtight container, but something that's going to seal and take out a lot of the oxygen, right? And you guys have probably seen, sometimes there's those like oxygen absorbers and like pads that help, depending on the product, might be something interesting to consider. But all of those things, depending on our product, could be a factor that will degrade the shelf lifetime. So what I recommend when you're just starting out is that you can definitely pay for a shelf life study. That is very much a possibility. Typically, again, depending on the product, like seasonings are going to have a very long shelf life, right? So oftentimes you can benchmark against other products and say, okay, this name brand in the marketplace has a 2-year shelf life. Like, I feel comfortable sort of benchmarking in that way. Now, if you have a cookie and somebody else has a cookie, I was actually flying home yesterday, and they served these cookies on the airplane, and I was just curious. I read the back, and like the preservatives on there were insane. I was like, is this even real food? So you need to benchmark like products, right? Your natural cookie with no preservatives is not going to have the same shelf life as something like that, where it has all of these things that are really holding tight. It's basically like injecting this product with all these additional chemicals and things that are gonna really keep that a long shelf life. So you can definitely kind of use other similar products as a benchmark. Again, so going to be so product specific. However, the thing I always recommend when you're starting out is, when we talk about food manufacturing, we use something it's called the gold standard or benchtop sample. So when you're trying to kind of feel confident that like your shelf life is correct, you probably want to get kind of a baseline from another product and say, well, it looks like, so I'm just going to take salsa is actually a really good example of refrigerated salsa, because I did this with Brian with Barfly behind me. So we kind of said, well, other salsas, refrigerated salsas in the marketplace seem to have about a 4 to 5 week shelf life. Okay, so that's our goal. That's what we want it to be. Now think about it. If you're in a grocery store and you have a short shelf life product, like it's going to take a little bit for them to order it, for you to deliver it, and then it's going to sit on the shelf, and then the customer doesn't want to buy it on the same day that it like is Best Buy, right? So there's like this long lead time. So the more shelf life you can give, especially to a grocery store, the better for sure. So what I always recommend is that you start with an informal sort of at-home shelf life test. So the key to this, though, it only works well. It's only going to give you good information if you start with clean, good product. So you want to have like the benchtop sample that's amazing. This is like the one, this is what all the other products should taste like. You're gonna make sure when you're making it in your home kitchen, you guys, your home kitchens are totally filthy. I don't know if you know this, but like there are studies and you can do like Google like home kitchen dirtiness or sanitized. Our home kitchens are totally filthy. They are actually like some of the filthiest places as far as like bacteria and things like that. So if you're going to make a product at home, it's really important that you really sanitize your surfaces, pull your hair back, wear gloves. All of your equipment needs to be sanitized, right? We don't do this as a normal course of action in our home because we eat the product very quickly, right? So what had happened, is a good example with Firefly, is that he made it at home. And then he brought me samples, and we both had samples in our fridge. And after a little while, they were getting like bulging. And then one actually exploded in my fridge because there was so much bacteria and yeast that had built up. Well, as we talked about it, and I said, well, tell me about your kitchen process. And I get it. Like, there's no, I think you can look back and laugh at this now. So I don't think you'll mind me sharing the story, but you guys don't know this yet. That's why you're here. That's why you're on this channel learning is, we don't think about the sanitation guidelines and protocols that a restaurant or a manufacturer uses. So I want you to get a food safe sanitizer. You can get it on Amazon or something like that, or a restaurant supply store, or you can also do a bleach dilution and just Google that, what that ratio is, like the parts per million or like 1 teaspoon to a gallon kind of thing. But you want to be sure you sanitize all of your equipment, and that you're using new packaging, right? That is food safe because it's been sanitized ahead of time. So the only way a real shelf life study is going to really work for you is if you take those steps first. Then you want to be very good about documenting. You guys, you're going to like have, well, the other thing I want you to do is, if you think your shelf life is going to be 6 months, then go ahead and maybe do 8 samples, for instance. Now, you're going to want to package those in different containers. You don't want to just like take one cookie and put it somewhere, and because every time you open the package, it's going to allow more oxygen in or change the temperature or change it. So you want to have individually packaged samples. So in our example, we want to see if we have a 6-month shelf life. So have 8 of them, or maybe even a few more. So you're going to want to, the first month you can let it go, try it after the first month. How is the quality? And then after the second month, right? And so then as it gets closer to 6, you want to try it a little bit more frequently. So if that's what your hypothesis is, right, that I can get this product to go for 6 months, you want to be able to prove that. Unfortunately, the only way to do that is through time, right? 6 months. There are certainly studies that you can pay for. Basically, I've worked with companies that we send them in those number of samples. Now, the difference with paying for it is that they are going to test for things like pH and water activity. They can do like the microbial tests and see what's going on. So depending on your product, I certainly have recommended that certain products do that. But you want to just be sure you are documenting things really well. Because when you put those 6 or 8 or 12 samples in your fridge, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember the date and I remember da da da. But you're not going to remember. right? You have too many things in your brain. Like 6 months later, you're gonna not remember what was happening. So be sure that you do a spreadsheet or some kind of document where you're really taking notice of all the pieces, right? This is a science experiment, basically. So document, document. So there is, like I said, a direct lab test where you can just do it over that period of time. Certain products, it might be appropriate to do what's called an accelerated shelf life study. And not every product this is going to work for, but they add heat and some other pieces to like accelerate that sort of what time would do, although, and they'll tell you that there's no way that it'll be an exact one-to-one match, but it can get you results, maybe in 2 months instead of 6. And I will say, when we did this also, and we actually, the next time he did it, he was in a commercial kitchen. We did all the sanitation, all the things, and we did the same thing. And then we're at like a 5-week shelf life that we felt comfortable with. Okay, so I think I talked about everything as far as the informal one. Obviously, there's ways that, like I was talking about with the cookies on the airplane, there are ways to extend shelf life. Again, certain products adding like acid can definitely help with shelf life. There are herb and sort of food-based antioxidants and extracts that may be able to help. Lecithin can be a helpful preservative, a natural preservative in baked goods. I have lots more resources on this inside Food Business Success, as well as like where to go send your samples and how to get those shelf life tests. Some, be very careful. Some can be very, very expensive. And I try to find you guys resources that are going to be budget friendly for what you need as much as possible. But there are natural additives, preservatives that you can add to foods that you can experiment with. Keeping in mind that your flavor might change a little bit. Things are going to, potentially shift, and you have to be like, well, is the benefit of that little change going to outweigh that I get this longer shelf life? Because again, especially if you're going on a grocery store shelf, the longer the shelf life is, the better for everyone. It's better for their customers. It's better for your store. It's going to be better for you. You're not going to have to go around and give credits and replenish product and deal with invoicing and unhappy buyers. And there can just be some bigger issues there. So getting a long shelf life is important. Obviously not at the expense of the integrity and the taste of the product. And I was going to say one more thing about that, and now I totally lost it. Anyway, it'll come back to me. It's fine. Oh, I was going to say that just be cautious with chemical preservatives. Many of you guys are in the better for you space, right? And so if you're wanting to compete in that space, if Whole Foods or natural grocers or some of those other like more natural stores are calling your name, you feel like that's your target customer, a lot of them have a banned list, and you can just search that. You can search Whole Foods banned ingredient list, and it'll tell you all the preservatives that you cannot use. So you want to be very careful when you are trying to extend your shelf life, that your preservatives, the additives, don't conflict with the stores that you want to go in, because that would be really hard, challenging if you're like, I have this amazing product and now this cookie lasts for a year and a half, but it has a chemical, it has a preservative that isn't allowed in some of those stores. I have amazing food scientists that I refer folks to. So if you're having trouble with this, you can always reach out to me or join me inside Food Business Success. Go head over to the private Facebook group. You can ask questions there as well. All right, that's a lot, but I gave you some high level and maybe a little bit of detail around shelf life, how to extend it, why it's important, the factors to keep in mind. And I'd love for you guys all to go put on your lab coat and go test your product, figure out what your shelf life is, and just go have fun. This process should be fun creating your food business. But yes, especially if you want to go into wholesale, you want to look at how can I extend that shelf life for that product. All right, I don't see any questions coming in, but if you guys have additional questions that come up, the private Facebook group is one of the best places to go post and ask your follow-ups. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Please like this video. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, Food Business Success. And then also leave your comments below and we'll get those answered. All right, thanks guys. Have a great day.